gravity well because a lot of stuff just comes back down. And then it's in a sun orbit, similar to Mars itself, and then some interaction either with Mars' gravity well or something flings it in some direction, and in this case happens to be Earth. By the way, with Martian ones, there's one interesting second, and I love when science affords this opportunity. So we have this isotope dating method. I hope that's accurate. What if it's not? So somebody thought of an independent check. Some of these Martian meteorites have trapped air bubbles of sufficient size they were able to drill in a lab environment, sample the air trapped in the putative or the isotope-derived sample, and sure, it was a perfect match to the latest data they had of what the Martian atmosphere looks like. So that's like a really great double check. Oh yeah, so this was in Libya about 200,000 years. Well, the one thing I like about it is that because of that, it's slowly, in a sense, sandblasted. All the fusion crust, right, it made it look like a black lump of charcoal normally if it was a fresh fall, has been etched away. And so what you see is kind of like more or less what the rock probably would have looked like on Mars. And to me, it looks like when you see those early, photos of Mars and Pathfinder and what have you, it just looks like it. It's just kind of cool. Both lunar and Martian meteorites love light. It used to be that there were different amounts, and now for whatever reason, there's about an equal number of them that have been found. I have no idea why. One's farther away and a bigger planet. Moon is closer, no atmosphere. It's kind of weird. It works out about the same. I'm not really sure why. I haven't looked at the math. Maybe it would fall out of the math, or maybe what have you. But in both cases, it's more rare on Earth than pure crystalline diamond. But no De Beers monopoly, no wedding ring racket, So the supply and demand, there's only geeks like us that would, see the value in this over diamond, right? So it doesn't cost as much.
I've just read that King Tut's dagger, they just determined
the
was
metallurgy
made from a meteorite.
Well, yeah. Did you give the talk, or you may have seen it at EG, right? Basically
That's right.
these magic swords were
That's
like, well, where else are you going to get these wonderful alloys long before people understood what they were? Right? Meteorites.
Metals from space.
Exactly. Everyone had a chance?
Yeah.
Cool. So then that could be a segue to this slice, which I won't hand around just because I don't want it to fall. That is the largest, this is a very precise choice of words, the largest slice of the moon on Earth. Why do I say slice? Because, well, it is a slice. It comes from a meteorite that was larger than anything the Apollo program brought back. And again, it's illegal to own anything that came back in the Apollo program. It is stolen property almost by definition, because what few lunar rocks were let out by official channels went to heads of state, and none of them been sold on eBay. So don't buy a lunar rock from Apollo if someone's trying to sell it to you. But meteorites are fine, and this one comes from what is either the largest or second largest. There's a little debate, but let's assume it's from the second largest lunar meteorite. But it's the only one that's been sliced, and this is the center slice. And I think it's just gorgeous because it reveals the inner structure. So sometimes the outside looks nice, but these ones that are just a fusion crust like any other rock you'd see sitting around, the interior is amazing. So the white part and gray part are actually similar regolith, just different amounts of bombardment, different densities. The gray is about 3 times more dense than the white. It reflects incredible pulverizing impact that took place throughout our moon's history, late bombardment in particular. This conglomerate, so imagine again a rock about this big, if that slice was extruded for roughly 3D volume, was a loose rock sitting on the surface. And again, from these kinds of analyses, they can deduce when it landed on Earth, how long it was in orbit around the sun, how long it was just sitting on the lunar surface. It accumulates weird bubbles from solar wind when it's sitting on the lunar surface, and a fixed orientation, so there's an asymmetry to how that solar wind is accumulating. This is how they can deduce lunar resident time versus tumbling through space-time. Amazing.
Hey, one of my favorite pieces in here, and I'm bringing it up, is because it's the 50th anniversary this year. Really what was the first truly successful spacewalk. Because before Buzz Aldrin's Gemini 12 spacewalk, people didn't really know how to work in space. They would grab something, turn it, and they would go flying the other way, right, as we know now. So they came back, they trained in water for the first time after that, and this year is the 50th anniversary of Buzz's Gemini 12 spacewalk. And you have something.
Do you know what month that was by any chance?
I think it's October or November.
I'm going to make sure I do a post about
I will send that to you.
Because it's great to post on the...
Absolutely, on the actual day. If you have something that he had, and you can go online and look at the images and see this thing.
You can see it clearly.
Yes.
Festooned with Velcro. So before
and what is it? Tell us what it is.
Exactly. Before the Apollo 1 fires, it's a flashlight, a pen flashlight. And just covered with Velcro, and you can see as clear as day one of the best and most printed photos of the Gemini 12 spacewalks. It's just sitting there perfectly illuminated by the sun. And yeah, this is
That's it.
from the first yeah, successful. Certainly Buzz's first spacewalk and the first successful one. That was new information. I didn't know that. The story I love is the Russians' first attempt, where the suit just went up like the Michelin Man, and they couldn't get back in to the capsule, and they had a long time of like their equivalent of Houston, like, let me try this isn't working. The guy in the capsule was like understood that at a certain point he's just gonna have to let that guy go. And the final solution was venting somewhere, not quite like in The Martian with the glove tip, but somewhere they vented the suit, and the idea was like, you're just gonna expose your suit, and you're gonna die, but you got a transition time as it's deflating and get down through the damn hatch, and that worked. And that guy's still alive, Leon, something.
This was all super new, right? Back then,
November 11th to 15th.
November 11th?
There you go.
No, that was the launch date.
Oh, okay.
I forget when the EVA happened.
Okay, the 11th to the 15th of November was Gemini 12.
This one's kind of cool. I'll pull it out, but not pass it around just because I don't have it. No, there we go. Is that cool? Let me just see if I want behind this piece. Oh, yeah, let's rescue it. Do you mind holding this for a sec? I'll just pass the photo around, just so people, well, I'll just leave it here. If you want to hold it, you can. It's just a cheese ball 3D print of probably the second most famous or reprinted photo from the lunar surface. The number one being Buzz Aldrin saluting the moon. Number two, this is where he's about 3 feet off. It's John Young doing sort of, I think it's a Navy salute? Yeah, maybe. Navy salute. And it's a great photo. In fact, I have one in my office. It's a better normal print. But what's really amazing is this is the cuff checklist that was on his wrist at that time. So when they do their EVAs, they have these plasticized pages that they fold over. And in fact, the curvature of the spiral bound makes it really nice. It's actually quite a bit of effort to flip each page. The white is just a pipe for display, but it's a strap that would go around the white suit. I'll hold it steady. On this particular page that I have it open to, or instructions for taking rock samples. Because by these missions, the J missions, they have the rovers. They're doing incredible. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. Yeah. So this is far and away, by some metrics, the most rare, unusual, and difficult to come by of the things that you'll see here today. Although one might argue the meteorites could be up there.
So how did you come by it?
Let me remind myself of this one. This was once, because I bought some stuff directly from John Young, because I had this fascination with his stuff. I'll get to the first item I collected from his in a moment. But in this case, it was one step removed. I knew a person who was representing, well, let me make sure, because I want to make sure I don't blur, because I also bought an even better one, but it was part of a package from a collector who himself had built an incredible collection. It was the Apollo, I'll say what it is in a moment, because I know the story for sure. This guy had collected it from Gene Cernan, the Apollo 17 equivalent that has the handwritten instructions on how to do that fender repair, which involved duct tape and the plasticized pages, because they had this fender broke and it was kicking so much lunar dust up they couldn't really use the rover, and they did a duct tape repair. Of course, it was duct tape. But he had to write like the first auto repair instructions in space. Like do this. So and they're in the book of what he's going to do. So this one. There's a few people. So in general, how do these things come into anybody's hands? The astronauts don't generally like dealing with eBay or people. It's kind of uncouth. And so there'll be a number of folks they trust who often I found don't charge anything for their services. They're just there to help. They know these people. They want to help them out. Maybe occasionally they get tossed something, artifact on the side. But there's no crass business deals. Just like, do you know someone who want to buy this?
There's no brokers.
Kind of quietly. Yeah, the brokers with no broker fee.
Yes.
So I was dealing with one of those people, and he himself did a 20-page report of all known examples of these, where they are, any sale that had occurred, what the price was. Actually, a lot of research to support. Well, that's why we think X is the right price. And so it was more than my first house. By the way, it is a lot. And I don't know. I felt good that the astronaut gets a little more of a retirement plan, I guess, than they would have otherwise had.
Which is surprisingly not, what you might think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's gotten a lot better lately,
yeah.
But Buzz got his mileage check home from Johnson or something when he left. And okay, here you go, $36.
Now you're on your own. Right.
Good luck.
Exactly. Exactly. Did I hear a question? Yeah. Oh, okay. This gray flashlight-like thing was the very first artifact that I found, and it's where most of these come through, an auction house like Heritage or RR Auction or Bonham's. They're actually, as we speak, both Bonham's and RR Auction. It's pretty interesting stuff. like there's a rover map from Apollo 15. And one of them. Anyway, this gray thing was the very first time. It blew my mind. It's a Crewman's Optical Alignment Sight, or a COAS, C-O-A-S. It's detachable, of course. It goes in the lunar module window, and that angled purple, green, depending on your angle, piece of glass at 45 degrees is like a heads-up display. So the flashlight-like object projects a reticle, crosshairs, and without that, you can't dock the spacecraft. There's an equivalent one on the command module side, and in both cases, that crosshair lines up with a physical cross on the opposing craft, and you line those up because the actual docking ring light on both craft is out of sight, given where the windows are. You just can't see what you're docking. You have to just line those things up. And the pitch yaw roll has all been figured out that if you line those up, you'll dock. So they had a contingency, right? What they would do if they couldn't dock, and all spacewalks, we never had to do that. But it's a pretty big deal. So it's kind of like a really important thing. And I would say that I'm going to guess that if, for whatever reason, the folks on the lunar module or commanders or what have you could only bring one thing, it probably would be this. Because like they know it's like used in all kinds of different, like in emergencies on Apollo 13, they use it in different places, stuff like that.
You don't want to break that pane of glass thing.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. I've never seen one broken, and I don't know how well people have done. Like for example, this recently discovered purse. It really looks like purse in Neil Armstrong's closet. Who knows if people were stacking things? He's just sitting with a bunch of other metal objects, just loose, not wrapped in bubble wrap. Just just a pile of stuff. Yeah.
Do you have anything from Apollo 13, or you don't?
Yeah. So. Fun, I said from the lunar module, that's important. So this one is kind of interesting. This is one of those rare examples where the collector prior to me, quote, added value by figuring out this was much better than what the seller thought it was. So the assumption was that this was the AOT from, make sure I get this right. Yes, right. From the command module, because the command module lands, and after the mission's done, you could detach this very easily from the command module. There's an equivalent one, but the way you can tell this is, in fact, the lunar module one is if you look down here, it's threaded, the other one's not threaded, and then also you can check if you look up the part numbers in the registry, which, thank God, in the American space program, every part has a unique part number. You know if it was on which mission, did it actually fly or not, and was it a lunar module, a command module, like everything was documented up the wazoo. So what was interesting is this Apollo 13, so what is this? Okay, it's the eyepiece for the AOT, the Optical Alignment Telescope. And why the Apollo 13 version is so amazing is, this is the thing they had to look through when using lunar module for the first and only time as that, lifeboat / tugboat or train, however you want to think of it, pushing back towards Earth. All of the sightings and the star sightings and stuff had to be done in a way that wasn't the normal way of doing it, and they had to use this. Now, why John Young had this was mission control. They always have someone, I think it's Capcom, perhaps?
Capcom,
yeah.
Who's always been instructed.
Exactly. Who knows what's going on? It's been there, right? And so in a way, the Apollo 13 crew was like, we are so happy to be back. They gave this pretty prized thing from Aquarius, from the lunar module, to John Young. And so he's had it all these years. Yeah.
Now, we have just a few minutes left on our virtual tour.
Oh, yes.
And this is not from Apollo 13, but come back over here.
Yes.
Because this has an Apollo 13 connection, this big beast right behind me.
Of course.
So let's talk about this.
It was used in the movie Apollo 13.
There you go.
So I used to have a copy of Ad Astra. I've got to find it before the backup issues are hard to find, where you can see this. It's like amazing because it was used in both the Apollo era and then in the shuttle era. And the main modification for shuttle were these two angled things, so they put an additional display here and there. But otherwise, the same subcomponents, they're removable, and you can shift around where things are, right? You can see basically this exact assemblage in slightly different variations at different missions, and it's just so archaic. There's some earlier ones where you can see like a little rotary phone element built in, or this one's got what looks almost like a normal digital phone, and some crazy stuff. So it's, if anyone wants to look, it's got all the wires and stuff inside of it. It is heavy as hell too. It's probably the heaviest thing I've got here.
Which console desk was it?
I don't have that yet. Maybe I do. I posted, I just don't remember off the top of my head. Because there's all kinds of interesting sites that are trying to piece together everything.
Yeah.
As you might imagine.
Yeah.
There's some.
It's a real puzzle to figure out
especially when there's been slight changes to some of them. And I believe, I can't remember, because I have some other individual elements from the firing room and room 1, because that's kind of a big deal. Was it just kind of in one of the side rooms? Yeah, one of the side rooms, the main one. But I may have posted it on Flickr. I just can't remember if I might.
When I was a kid, we would take pieces of wood and cut out holes and go to Radio Shack, where you could buy most of these switches and lights and mount them, just so that we could have a play console and play mission control.
That's a
And
good point. I do intend to power it up at one point.
oh my gosh,
You
that'd be
hook it up
awesome.
to a simulator.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's all I
so
was wondering.
Mhm.
that's all the time we have
Yeah.
for a virtual tour.
Okay.
So let's just say thank you to Steve for
Bye-bye,
the virtual
camera.
tour.
Yeah.
That's been great.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you, Steve.
Well,
Okay.
now for the really cool stuff.
Yeah.